Yeah, before the devils, before the whispers, before mankind even walked the earth, there was one being who stood at the pinnacle of worship, a creature of fire cloaked in piety, elevated to the heavens. Not an angel, but more devoted than many of them. His name was Las. He was not always cursed. He was not always hated. In fact, there was a time when even the angels looked upon him with admiration. Among the jinn, he was unmatched. While others fell into rebellion, he chose obedience. While others were lost in distraction, he immersed himself in worship. His sujood was frequent, his remembrance constant, and his loyalty, at least on the surface, seemed absolute. So sincere was his dedication that Allah allowed him to dwell among the angels, a rank no jinn had ever been given. He was present in the celestial realms, bowing beside radiant beings of light, basking in the nearness of the divine, hearing what no other jinn heard, witnessing what no other jinn saw. In the courts of the heavens, Las was a legend, and he knew it. But beneath the veil of devotion, hidden in the folds of his worship, a sickness was growing. It was not visible to the angels, who knew no envy. It was not obvious to the jinn, who saw only his elevation. But it was there, quiet, poisonous, patient pride. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that whispers. It crept into his heart as he watched the divine order unfold, as he stood among the heavenly ranks. And with every act of worship, his pride grew stronger, telling him, "You are not just one of them, you are better than them." He began to see himself not as a servant among servants, but as someone chosen, exceptional, irreplaceable, and still, no one knew. His sadr did not falter, his tongue still uttered tasbih. His presence among the angels remained untouched. But deep inside, Las was no longer worshipping Allah out of humility. He was worshipping out of pride. Worship had become his crown, not his submission, and Allah in his infinite wisdom allowed it to fester, for the time of truth was drawing near. A test was coming that would expose what lay hidden, a moment that would separate the truly obedient from the pretenders. And when that moment came, all illusions would be shattered. The divine announcement shook the heavens. Allah was creating a new being, a new kind of creation formed from the earth, shaped with his own hands, and honored with a soul breathed into him by his command. This creation would not be made of light like the angels, nor fire like the jinn, but of humble clay. He would not soar in the heavens, he would walk the earth, and yet Allah chose to honor this being above all others. His name was Adam. He was taught knowledge the angels did not possess, the names of all things, the capacity to reason, to choose, to learn, to fall, and to rise again. Adam was not merely a figure of clay. He was a symbol, a sign, a beginning. Then came the command. Allah in his majesty ordered all to prostrate before Adam. It was not an act of worship, it was an act of obedience, a divine instruction to honor what Allah had honored. And so the angels, who do not question, bowed in unison. Their wings swept the ground, their foreheads touched the earth. Not one hesitated, but there was one who did not move, one who stood frozen, one whose heart was ablaze with something far darker than fire. Las. His eyes burned with rage. His pride erupted. In front of all the angels he refused, not with silence, but with defiance. Ana khairun minhu, he declared, I am better than him. And why? You created me from fire. You created him from clay. In that moment, everything became clear. The worship, the sujud, the piety, it was all a facade, a cover for a heart that had long been diseased. He was not driven by submission, but by superiority. He had compared the essence of his being to Adam's and judged himself greater. But it was not the material that mattered, not fire or clay. It was obedience. And in disobeying the Creator's command, Las proved that he had never truly understood what worship meant. Worship is not just prayer, it is surrender. It is lowering yourself before the will of the one who created you, regardless of your status, your form, your pride. The heavens gasped. The angels looked on. Las, the once righteous, was now the first rebel, and with that one act, that single declaration, he was cast out. The mercy of Allah no longer embraced him. The ranks of the angels were closed to him. The gates that once welcomed him were sealed shut. He became Al-Rajim, the accursed. But even then he did not repent. He did not fall in regret. He stood firm in his arrogance and made a chilling request: grant me respite until the day they are resurrected. He did not ask for a chance to redeem himself. He did not beg for forgiveness. He asked for time, not to correct his mistake, but to execute a plan of vengeance, a mission to lead Adam's descendants astray, to drag them into the fire that had become his fate. And Allah, in his wisdom, granted him that time, not as a gift, but as a trial for mankind and for Las himself. From the heights of worship to the depths of defiance, Las had written the opening line of the greatest spiritual war in human history. And his hatred, his pride, his mission of deception had only just begun. From the moment he was granted time until the day of resurrection, Las became something more than a rebel. He became an enemy, not just an enemy to Adam, but to every soul born of Adam's lineage. His heart, now void of light, was filled with one burning obsession: vengeance. He would not bow to Adam, so he would destroy Adam's children, every generation, every nation, every tongue, every tribe. He would not rest, he would not falter, and he would never stop. His pride had birthed his hatred, and his hatred became his purpose, and so began the longest and most relentless war in existence, the war between Las and humanity. He did not come with armies of steel or legions of flame. He came quietly, subtly, with whisper. He would sit beside hearts, not thrones. He would not strike with swords, but with doubt, pride, jealousy, lust, greed, and fear. He would whisper into the hearts of kings, convincing them they were divine. He would whisper to the poor, making them curse their fate. He would whisper to the righteous, inflating their egos, until their sincerity turned to arrogance. To the wicked, he offered justification. To the sinner, he offered delay. And to the obedient, he whispered, "Are you sure your worship is enough?" He became the master of deception, tailoring his attack to each soul, learning their weaknesses better than they knew themselves. His goal was never just to make people sin. It was to make them lose hope, to believe they were too far gone, to feel that repentance was meaningless, that mercy was unreachable. He moved through the ages with terrifying precision. He was there when Qabil murdered Habil, whispering jealousy into his ear. He was there when Pharaoh declared, "I am your Lord Most High." He was there in the courts of kings, in the homes of commoners, in the masjids, in the markets, in the solitude of those who thought they were alone. He crafted false gods, idols of stone and gold, convincing people to worship creation instead of the Creator. He spread ideologies, lies, philosophies that painted disbelief as enlightenment and obedience as backwardness. He never forced, he only suggested. He whispered, and humanity followed, sometimes willingly, sometimes unknowingly. Yet in all this, he was never ignorant of one truth. I preserved the flow of your narration, but broke it into punchy, cinematic paragraphs, inserted proper punctuation, corrected names, e.g. Sajda, Tasbih, Masjid, and smoothed the dialogue formatting for impact. Believed themselves invincible, their eyes filled with horror, as their souls were wrenched from their bodies. He saw it come to prophets, peaceful and serene, their faces glowing as they returned to their Lord. He saw children taken in sleep, soldiers on battlefields, scholars at their desks. He knew that no one, no matter how pious or wicked, could escape it, and that included him. The very gift he begged for, respite, was ticking away. Every sunrise, every heartbeat, every moment was a step closer to the end he feared, but never admitted aloud. He watched the angel of death with a mix of fascination and dread. He knew this angel well. He had observed him with cold eyes, standing at the edge of the seen and the unseen, tasked with a mission that never ceased. He saw him take the soul of Nimrod. He saw him take Pharaoh. He saw him take the souls of those he himself had led astray, men and women who listened to his whispers their entire lives, only to realize too late that they had followed a lie. He watched as the righteous were met by angels of light, wrapped in fragrant shrouds, rising with honor to the heavens. He saw the wicked dragged from their bodies, screaming as their souls were beaten and denied entry by the guardians of the skies. And still, he whispered, still, he worked, still, he plotted. But with every soul that departed, he was reminded, one day the angel of death would come for him. He could manipulate hearts, he could confuse minds, he could trick kings and scholars, but he could not deceive the angel of death. That being did not listen to whispers, it answered only to the command of Allah, and Las, for all his power and cunning, had no defense against it. He had escaped many things, but he knew he would never escape that. He had delayed his punishment, but not cancelled it. Time was not infinite. His mission had an end. There is a peculiar kind of fear that grows in the heart of one who knows they are doomed, but doesn't know when. Las lived with that fear. He wore it beneath his arrogance. He masked it with pride, but it never left him. Every time he saw the angel of death claim a soul, he knew, my turn will come. He watched as generations came and went, prophets preached and passed, empires rose and crumbled. He saw languages evolve, borders change, new tools and technologies invented. But one thing never changed. Death came for them all, and one day it would come for him, the one who had defied the command, the one who refused to bow, the one who believed fire was superior to clay, the one who vowed to mislead until the end of time. He would himself come to an end, and in the depths of his darkened heart, he knew something else. Death would not come to him gently. It would not be peaceful. It would not be merciful. It would be a punishment, a reckoning, a ripping of his soul, the likes of which no other creature would endure. He had inflicted pain upon billions. He had fueled the fall of civilizations. He had whispered evil into hearts and watched them destroy themselves. But what he would face when the angel of death finally came for him would be worse than all the torment he had ever unleashed combined. And still, he whispered. Still, he deceived, because he knew nothing else, because pride, once rooted so deeply, blinds even the doomed from their own destruction. And then, after countless centuries, after watching soul upon soul depart this world, after deceiving nations, after whispering into the hearts of billions, the moment finally arrives. It begins, subtly. The air grows heavy. The skies shift. A silence settles over realms, both seen and unseen. The world itself seems to pause, as though all of creation is holding its breath. Something is coming, something terrible, something final. Las, the deceiver, feels it before he sees it. A presence unlike any he has ever felt. A presence he has witnessed for millennia, but never faced. The angel of death, the one he long dreaded, the one who came for kings and beggars, prophets and tyrants, angels and jinn. And now, for him, there is no warning, no announcement, no room for negotiation. Las trembles, not outwardly, not yet, but within his chest. For the first time since his fall from grace, a feeling claws at him that he can no longer suppress. Fear. Not fear of battle, not fear of humiliation, but fear of non-existence. Fear of being taken, ripped, destroyed. Fear of finally facing the truth he denied for so long, that his time has run out. He lashes out, not with claws or weapons, but with desperation. He tries to flee. His body shifts form after form. He takes shapes unseen by human eyes. He disappears into dimensions unknown to mankind. He leaps across realms, from the depths of the jinn world to the edges of the physical earth. He ascends mountains, dives into oceans, burrows deep into the core of existence, searching for a corner where the angel cannot follow. But there is none. Every realm he enters, The angel is already there, waiting, silent, unyielding. He calls out to his army, to the legions of devils who once swore loyalty to him. He summons the whispers, the shadows, the beings he corrupted long ago. But none answer. They are paralyzed, scattered, powerless. The one they feared and followed now stands alone. Alone before the decree of Allah. Alone before the one angel who does not speak except by divine command. Las, who once stood proud among the angels, now crouches like a terrified beast, begging for another moment, another breath, another chance. But it is too late. The time he asked for, the time he was granted, the time he abused, has come to an end. The angel of death does not speak. He does not argue. He does not delay. He obeys. What follows is not like the death of any other soul. The souls of the righteous are taken gently with honor and fragrance. The souls of the wicked are torn with pain and fear. But his is unique. No soul in creation has caused as much corruption, as much suffering, as much defiance as his, and so his soul is not simply taken. It is ripped, clawed, shredded from his very being. The pain is beyond comprehension. It is not merely physical. It is spiritual, cosmic, eternal. Every whisper he ever spoke now turns back on him like blades. Every lie he ever uttered now lashes him like fire. Every corrupted soul is a weight, pulling at his essence as it is dragged from his form. The screams that leave his throat are not just screams of agony. They are screams of realization that it's over, that he has failed, that all his efforts to escape, to deceive, to postpone have amounted to nothing but regret. He writhes, he resists, he tries to tear away from the angel's grasp. But the decree of Allah cannot be resisted. It is not a battle, it is a sentence, a fulfillment, a truth that was always promised. His body collapses, his presence dims, his soul, once proud and defiant, is now a shredded echo of its former self. He is no longer the accuser, no longer the whisperer, no longer the manipulator. He is the judge. And in this moment, there is no audience to applaud him, no followers to praise him, no armies to defend him. There is only silence, the silence of justice descending. The heavens do not mourn, the earth does not grieve, the jinn do not weep. All of creation watches with stillness, as the one who defied Allah for millennia meets the fate he thought he could escape. Who once saw himself as superior to Adam, is now reduced to a defeated soul stripped of every ounce of pride. His cries echo across the realms, but no one answers. No angel shows pity, no jinn offers comfort, no human prays for him. And why would they? For generations he whispered destruction into their hearts. For lifetimes he mocked their repentance, derailed their faith, and turned their worship into arrogance. Now the roles are reversed. Now he is the one abandoned, deceived by his own lies. As the angel of death completes the task, the weight of the moment settles. This is not just the death of an individual, it is the collapse of an era. The deceiver has been deceived, the hunter has become the hunted, and though his soul has been taken, his torment has only just begun. Because what awaits him after death makes this ripping seem like mercy. What's coming is not a punishment he crafted, it is one crafted for him by the one he defied. And there will be no whispers there, no deception, no delay, only justice, raw and final. For the war he waged against mankind is over, and the price of that war is just beginning. The moment the soul of Les is torn from his wretched body, a tremor of cosmic proportion echoes through the fabric of existence. It is not a tremor of sorrow or loss. No, it is a shift in the order of things, a long-awaited fulfillment of justice that creation itself seems to exhale. The heavens, which once echoed with his false piety, now stand in solemn silence. The earth, which bore witness to his endless schemes, no longer trembles beneath his footsteps. And the legions of devils, his followers, his allies, his whispering army, fall into confusion. The throne of deception he built over thousands of years begins to crack. The empire of darkness he so meticulously nurtured now reels in chaos. For the first time since the beginning, their master, the one they believed eternal, has fallen. His death is not just an individual end, it is a spiritual earthquake. The devils that once slithered through the minds of mankind now scatter like insects beneath a crushing light. They whisper to one another in fear, wondering if they too are next. For if Las, the most cunning, the most powerful among them, could not escape, then what hope do they have? Panic spreads through their ranks. Disorder takes root where once there was dark command. They had clung to his promise that they would prevail until the end, that his mission would never fail, that mankind was too weak, too distracted, too indulgent to resist. But now, with the fall of their master, their illusions shatter. They are left leaderless, anchorless, exposed. Among humans too, the news spreads, not in words but in awareness. The righteous rejoice, not with arrogance, but with gratitude. For generations they endured his whispers, his traps, his relentless efforts to sway them. The prophets who stood firm against him, the martyrs who died resisting his influence, the pious who wept in the night, fearing they had succumbed to him. All now find a moment of divine relief. The enemy of their souls, the source of their doubts and fears, has met his appointed end. They do not celebrate out of cruelty, but from the deep, settled satisfaction of witnessing the justice of Allah unfold exactly as promised. They remember the words of their Lord, the verses that foretold Las's betrayal and his ultimate demise. And those who once feared his power now fear only Allah, for they have seen what becomes of arrogance and rebellion. But not all rejoice. Among mankind are those who pledged themselves to Las, those who followed his footsteps, those who idolized his defiance, those who believed his whispers. They had made him their guide, their voice of truth, their phantom master, and now they are left abandoned. They scream his name. They call upon the shadows. They seek the voice that once promised them freedom. But there is no answer, only silence. And then comes the realization, the bitter, brutal truth that they had always ignored. He lied. He betrayed them. He had no power. He whispered, and they obeyed. That was all. And now, in the emptiness of his absence, their regret becomes unbearable. The Quran had spoken of this moment, that on the day when all things are exposed, Iblis will address his followers and say, "Indeed, Allah promised you the promise of truth, and I promised you, but I betrayed you. I had no authority over you except that I invited you and you responded to me. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves." Now those words burn. They ring in the minds of the deceived like a curse. The betrayal is not new. It was always there. But now it is undeniable, and there is no going back. While his empire collapses, his soul is not given rest. Death, for Las, is only a doorway. Beyond it lies a torment, designed specifically for the one who defied the Creator to his face. His soul is not greeted by peace. It is not wrapped in silken cloths or bathed in heavenly fragrance. Instead, it is seized by the angels of punishment, towering beings of wrath, clothed not in light but in judgment. They bind his filthy essence in a foul-smelling sack, crafted not of earthly material but from the essence of suffering itself. A stench so vile emanates from it that even the most corrupted of devils recoil. His soul is dragged, not carried through the lowest depths of the unseen realms, flung against gates he once dared to cross, only to be rejected by every level of the heavens. The angels who once stood beside him now curse his name. He is denied entry, spat upon by the celestial hosts who saw his true nature unfold. There is no dignity in this journey, only disgrace. He is hurled back down violently, forcefully, to the very earth he once mocked. But he is not buried in its soil like the children of Adam. He is confined to a prison outside the realm of mercy, isolated in a place where even time seems to suffocate. He waits, but not in peace. The torment does not pause. The punishment of the grave for him is unlike any other. While humans are questioned, his punishment is certain. While others are visited by angels to examine their faith, he is visited by the very angels who watched him mislead millions. They strike, they burn, they remind him of every deceit, every soul ruined, every lie that became a chain for others, and each reminder is a lash upon his essence. There is no silence, no rest, no hope, only waiting for something worse. Then comes the day when all life is undone. The trumpet is blown, mountains are crushed to dust, oceans explode, the sky splits like torn fabric, every living thing dies, the angels fall, the jinn vanish, mankind perishes, and even the angel of death, once feared by all, is ordered to die. And then only one remains, Allah the Eternal, the first, the last. When he wills, the trumpet is blown again, and life is restored. The graves crack open, the dead rise in horror and awe. Judgment Day has begun, and among those resurrected is Las, not as a commander, not as a whisperer, but as a criminal, exposed before the very ones he led astray. He is dragged forward, his disgrace open for all to see. Those who followed him stare in disbelief. They had expected him to stand tall, to defend them, to rescue them. But he stands alone, helpless, shattered. They see him clearly now, not as a master of darkness, but as a liar cloaked in arrogance. They see what he truly was, a coward who ran from truth, a deceiver who never cared, a betrayer whose only gift was destruction. Their shame intensifies, their despair deepens. He cannot help them now, he never could, and the reckoning has only just begun. The final verdict is not delayed. Before all of creation, Allah passes judgment with a justice so pure, so absolute, that no soul dares question it. And when the decree is pronounced, it is not merely a sentence, it is the fulfillment of a truth that was promised from the very beginning. Last, the one who once stood arrogantly in the heavens, who challenged the command of the Most High, who deceived billions with whispers and lies, is now handed over to the flames he spent eternity dragging others toward. The gates of hell open, not silently but with a roar that seems to come from the very depths of the universe, as if hell itself has waited for this moment. The fire does not flicker, it rages, it screams, it recognizes its prey. For this fire was prepared not just for the disobedient, but for the leader of disobedience, for the one who saw the path of truth and chose to turn his back on it. Chains forged by divine wrath wrap around him, massive, heavy, searing hot. They bind not just his limbs, but the very essence of his soul. His cries fill the sky, but no mercy comes. His pleas echo through the assembly, but none respond. He is dragged across the plains of judgment, his form battered, his pride in tatters. No one stands beside him, not a single follower, not a single defender. The same ones he led, the same ones who once praised his defiance, now recoil in terror and curse his name. They scream at him, demanding answers, begging for salvation, blaming him for their fate. But he offers them nothing, because he has nothing to offer. Their eyes meet, not in unity but in betrayal. He is the reason they are doomed. He is the voice that led them into ruin, and they now see the truth they were too blind to admit. He never had power, he only whispered. They were the ones who obeyed, and then he is hurled into the fire, not gently, not slowly, but with divine force. The flames do not consume him in an instant. It works on two levels. A theological reminder, it's rooted in Islamic eschatology, the refusal to bow to Adam, the lifelong deception of mankind, the regret and betrayal of his followers, the eternal torment in hell, and the contrasting reward for the patient believer. You've woven in Quranic verses without quoting them verbatim, but with enough resonance that someone familiar with the source immediately recognizes the emotional arc. You're not just describing punishment, you're showing the psychological collapse of this being, his pride turned to shame, his army scattered, and his voice reduced to bitter blame shifting. That makes the moral lesson land much harder. The ending shifts from narrative to direct address, telling the reader that the story of Las is already sealed, but theirs isn't. That turn transforms the piece from a story into a personal sermon. It feels like the final khutbah before the congregation stands for prayer. If you want this to hit even harder, I'd suggest Afak. Unify the name. Sometimes you write Las, sometimes Elas, and in the first section Bliss, which may have been Iblis auto-corrected. Keeping one consistent will help clarity and repetition. There's power in repeating themes, no whispers, no deception, but sometimes you restate the same idea twice in different words within the same paragraph. If you trim those, the rhythm will sharp, enhance parallelism at the end. Your last choice section could be made even more impactful with sharper contrast lines, e.g., you can follow the whisperer into fire or follow the caller to peace. The path is open. The choice is yours.